Hi everybody, Erica here with Fibersandfloss Canada. Welcome back to my channel, which is about cross stitch, and it's dedicated to our cross stitching community. Today I have a lot of fun stuff for you guys. I have some drama for you guys. The first time ever being called out on a channel. We'll talk about that, as well as a little bit of a lavender and lace parade for you. I hesitate to say parade because it's only, I think, 5 pieces, but something that I can share with you. I have a giveaway winner from last week. I have my current stitching. I have some community announcements as well. And yeah, a little haul, little extra things thrown in here and there. So I hope that you'll enjoy the episode. If you like it, please hit like and subscribe. It does help me out to reach more viewers as well, and just share my content with you. So I always start off with Book of Days, and I'm using this one here, the 2024 Book of Days by Needlework Press. This is my month so far. This is June, and I did talk a little bit about this in my last episode because June with my kids is super crazy. And so as you can see, there's not that much stitching that's happened this month. There's a lot of like wind up stuff for the year, and as a result, you know, as a mom, that stitching time gets put on the back burner. So it's part of why I'm sharing some previous lavender and lace pieces with you, because I haven't stitched a lot, and what I have stitched on has mainly been one piece. Anyways, so let's get to the drama. I was watching Flosstube and I got called out on a video, and I want to share that with you guys. So here's the clip of it.
The second lavender and lace. I have to share with you a little story. This chart is called Angel of Spring. Now, when I first started cross stitching, I had mentioned Erica already earlier on in the video, my best friend. When we were, I was 16, she was 15 when we met each other, I think. And when we both discovered that we like cross stitching, she was working, I don't know if she was working on this project just yet, or she was kitting it up, and you know, something happened right around that time. And this was what Erica was working on throughout our whole front, like teenage years, okay? Like I saw her stitching on this chart, and Erica, you haven't finished it yet. And I keep bugging her about it. Every time we talk about this chart, I'm like, Erica, are you ever gonna finish it? And she's like, I don't know. And I hope she shares the story on her Flosstube of her challenges with this chart. She hasn't brought it out. It's been in storage for many, many years. And I hope that this inspires her to say, now I have to go stitch it, because I'm gonna stitch it. I'm gonna stitch the chart that she had been stitching on all those years ago. And I think it's absolutely beautiful.
Okay, you guys. So Samantha the Huga Stitcher is a very good, dear friend of mine. We've been friends for quite some time, and we have cross-stitched together, I think really the duration of our entire friendship. And so, you know, over the years, it's so good to have those really good friends that are, you know, the good rocks in your life. You know, you can, you have lots of good times with them, you have lots of tough times with them, you get to grow together. So I'm very grateful that I've had Samantha in my life all these years, and we've shared so many good life moments, as well as cross stitching. So in terms of cross stitching, you know, I watched her video and I thought, oh, you didn't. You totally called me out in front of everybody on that one piece. Just not really sure, you know, if it's a piece I can ever really finish. And I want to share with you guys the struggles that I've had with this piece, and just kind of get some feedback as to what you guys think I should do, because I'm kind of at the point where I think I might toss it out. I don't know. Versus do I try and save it? So let me tell you the story. This is the piece here. This is Lavender and Lace, Angel of Spring. And it was, I wrote it down for you guys. number 23. And so this design is still available. You can purchase it on 123stitch or a variety of different shops. And it was one where, you know, we were living in Cologne at the time and we went to a little shop, kitted it up. And I think I started stitching this one when I was 15. I would have been about 15 years old, and it was my first linen piece. I thought I'll just dive right into it. So it's a very nice angel, but you know, it's not really my style now. So just keep that in mind when I ask you what I should do with this piece. So now this piece is nearly finished, but I have to tell you that I was trying to figure out how old it is, and I think it's 28 or 29 years old. Now, go back to, you know, being a teenager and cross-stitching, and Samantha and I would, you know, we lived in Cologne, and so the big thing the teenagers did was bush parties, right? So you would drive out to the bush in the middle of the forest, and everybody would be drinking, you have a big campfire and whatnot. So we would have like one night where we go out and we party, and then the next night we would stay in and we would cross stitch and we go back and forth, and yeah, it's kind of an interesting combination, right, for any teenager. And we really enjoyed our times in as well, which usually, you know, think of teenagers, you would have a snack, maybe eating Doritos or something like that at that age, not necessarily washing your hands before you cross stitch. And so my biggest problem has been some discoloration on this piece. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So this is where I'm at in the piece. And as you can see, I'm so close to finishing it, right? I've got some fill in here with the wings. And then when we look here, there's a little bit more at the bottom. Not a lot more to be done, kind of just some more in the dress along the bottom. And there's some like confetti, sort of floral bits in the dress here. And so I'm really, really close, but can we take a minute to just appreciate the masking tape? Do you guys remember this? This is like, it's crunchy now. It's so old. It just makes me smile, right? Anyway, so as you can see with the wings, can you see the discoloration? So this is when, I think about 1995, I probably started stitching it. And do you remember the whole like acid-free movement was happening at that time? And I suspect that there were some changes made to DMC floss at that time as well. And it's just a suspicion of mine. I don't have any confirmation of that, and I've never really looked into it. But what I do know is I did see changes in the floss, and I have some floss to this day that is still, you know, from the mid-90s versus the floss from today. And I do know there's the differential with dye lots, etc., but some of them are just vastly different. And one wonders about, you know, yellowing over time with like prior to the acid-free floss. So if I look here, can you guys see that change in her floss, or a change in her wings? Now the wings are stitched with white, and so that is a huge problem trying to fix this, because you can see like right here, you can see this cream. I'd stitched all of this, and then I started doing some of the dress, and then I had run out of floss. And so I went to the store and I bought a new skein of white thread, and you can see from here down was the new skein, from here the new skein, over here is the new skein. And just look at that discoloration. It looks like ecru, like it looks completely different, doesn't it? And so I thought to myself, I mean, the stitching itself isn't bad. And so I've got a couple options. You know, Samantha got this pattern as well, and she wants to stitch it. She's always been bothering me to, I know that it's really a bother, but you know, has always been saying, oh, you need to finish that angel. And I think, yeah, I do. I should pull it out. And then I pull it out and I see the difference in the colors. And I think, no, I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. It stayed in storage almost 30 years. And so now when I pull it out, I don't know what to do because of a couple things. I could look at pulling out, first of all, I can wash it. and I can see what happens. And washing it with something that's not like an OxiClean, just a really gentle soak, and I don't know that much will change, to be honest. I fear if I use something a bit more aggressive with the soak, that it could discolor not just the white, but discolor the other threads I've stitched, and which wouldn't be a problem except for the fact that I'm not done stitching the design. So going forward and stitching any other threads, then of course it's going to look quite different. So I'm not really confident that the wash with like an oxy in there or something is really going to be the way to go. The second thing is that when I look at, yeah, I could pick out the yellow, but like, look at this here. Do you see that? So when I look at that, the white, here you go. Let me show you this. This is white. Look at the difference. Remember, we had all of our snacks and everything as kids too, right? So is this an issue of dirty hands and different floss? Is this white that's yellowed over time? Possibly. But now clearly I cannot pick out this area, this area, this area, restitch it with this white, would be completely different again. And again, it's much brighter than any of the other white we're gonna see throughout this piece. Do you see that? So what the heck do I do, you guys? First of all, it's not something that's ever going to hang on my wall. If it is something that I finish, I'm finishing it for the fact that it was my first ever like linen piece. I don't want to say real piece, for my first linen piece. And it holds so many special memories to me. Just my time spent with my best friend, and it was such a good time in our lives, And so I don't know. The other option is to pick out all of the white, which would be crazy, right? We're talking thousands and thousands of stitches of picking that out. There likely is some other stuff that's stitched over top of it. So it could really be a hassle, and it would take a very long time to remove those stitches. The other option is just to stitch the whole thing over again. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like I would be sad to lose the actual piece that I worked on. But it means a lot to me, but I don't want to pick out like 10,000 stitches. I don't think anybody would want to pick out 10,000 stitches. So I'm not sure what to do. You guys let me know. This is a pattern. It is still available. Samantha's starting it soon here. It is stitched on a 32 count twilight linen by Zweigart, called for DMC, and some Kreinik in there and beads as well. But I'm just at a loss. I've been at a loss of what to do with this project for almost 30 years. So feel free to leave me a comment. Let me know what you think I should do. And sometimes for me, I just need someone to tell me, this is what you need to do. And then I say, no, I've actually known somewhere in my subconscious for the last 30 years that this is what I'm going to do. But I just need someone to make that suggestion, right? So let me know what you guys think, okay? Now, I do have another Lavender and Lace I want to share with you. So if we think back into the 90s when we started stitching, there wasn't, I don't know, the designers were quite different than what we see now, right? We have some amazing designers out there now. Back in the 90s, everything was, what does Nora Corbett calls it? Toilet cross stitch? Bathroom cross stitch, like that really like 80s, early 90s kind of, I don't want to say tacky, but that like country kitchen style of a cross stitch. You know what I'm talking about? And so that was never really my style. And then Nora Corbett's mom actually is the designer for Lavender and Lace. And so she had started putting out these designs, and they were really, truthfully, probably they were the most gorgeous pieces that were available at the cross stitch stores at that time. And so of course, you know, being 15 years old, I never thought like, oh, that's a huge, you know, project to take on. I was just like, oh yeah, that's gorgeous. I want to stitch that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to buy everything. So I bought it all, stitched it all up. So there was that one there, my Angel of Spring. The next one that I stitched after that, and I apologize, I didn't iron any of these today because they are so old. I fear, you know, oil setting in. I mean, they're probably already set in, but I'm not sure about, you know, ironing at this point. They haven't been washed in so many years. So the next one that I have stitched is, it's called Guardian Angel, and that is Lavender and Lace number 18, and this one is also still available. It is on 123 Stitch, and there's quite a few other people that are selling it as well. So this is the picture. I have the pictures, but I don't have like the original bag or oh, it looks a little bit blurry for you guys there, but maybe I'll put in another close-up photo. Or maybe I'll just show you the completed project. So this one here, it is stitched on, let me see. All my old patterns are highlighted, like grossly in yellow. So this is stitched on 32 count natural linen by Witchelt. That's not true. I do have the fabric, that's the called for, but I do have the fabric tag, and the one I stitched on is Zweigart. So this one's not clipped on, but I'll just show it to you. So this is Guardian Angel. I don't know, maybe at that time in my life, like this one, I think I stitched in the early 2000s. So this pattern was actually released in 1992. And about 2000 I had stitched this one. Again, you know, the wings are, you can see it's discolored as well. Where did that white go? Look. Right? So I do think that, yeah, there's so many different elements to it, right? Of what we're seeing. Anyways, there's some gold through here, and then there's also through the dress. She didn't use a ton of beads at that time. It was mainly Kreinik. And it is thick Kreinik. I think it's number 8. It definitely has a really rough feel to it. Yeah. So I wonder at that time, you know, I have another piece I'm going to share with you. I stitched a lot of like babies, and I would have been way too young to have a baby, but maybe it's something I desperately wanted. I don't know. Yeah, so I've never actually framed this piece, obviously. I'm not sure that I ever will frame it. You know, maybe when one of my children have a baby, I'll frame it. But I love the stitching. And this is the part where, you know, I stitch Mirabilias now. I haven't stitched a Lavender and Lace for quite some time, but it's the block stitching, right? If you look at the dress in here, look at that. I mean, I think that's where I really fell in love with block stitching. And when we look at, you know, Marilyn Leavitt Emblem's designs, and we look at Nora Corbett's designs, there are elements that carry so well throughout both of those designers. I mean, mother and daughter, right? Of course, they have to share some inspiration. They've worked together in past years. And so I found that love of block stitching in Lavender and Lace. And then of course, when Nora Corbett branched out on her own, the continuation of that in Nora's designing. And I think also, not only that, but you know, Marilyn's designs are more traditional, I find, whereas when you look at Nora's designs, they are a little bit brighter, they have a little bit more sparkle, and so I think that, you know, when I started stitching her designs, I was younger, and I think that was very attractive to me to have that really bright colors and a little bit of extra sparkle. So I find it interesting how I moved on from mom's designs to the daughter's designs, but still love them both very much so. Yeah. And then I have another one that I've stitched. That the Guardian Angel is still available. It is in print as well. But the next one I've stitched is not. It isn't out of print. This one here was from 1991. It is L&L number 12, and that is the Enchanted Alphabet. And so this one here, again, like must have wanted a baby, right? Because why would you stitch this? I had started stitching it, and then what had happened was my aunt was pregnant with a little girl, and I wanted to give it to her, so I did. But being, you know, the teenager I was completely broke. So I gave her the piece stitched, however, not framed, because I didn't have hundreds of dollars to frame something. And so she had framed it. And I wonder if I can fit the whole thing in here, but here it is. So this is Lavender and Lace, Enchanted Alphabet. Can you see it okay? There you go. And you know, the letters were super fun to stitch. You can see that they have like one color to a second to a third, fourth color. Those were not variegated floss. Those were all individual flosses that I had swapped out. And you can see those little like confetti flowers at the bottom. And then there's the girl with the bunny, and she had a little bit of a ribbon going to the bunny, and then more of the alphabet. Yeah. So really enjoyed that piece. Now this piece was special because I gave it to my aunt who tried for so many years to have children. She had her daughter Faith, and this hung in her room, and then got tucked away. And then when I got pregnant with my daughter a few years after that, at my baby shower, she had gifted this back to me for my daughter. And so this had hung in the nursery for all three of our children. And now again, it's tucked away back in storage. And so, you know, I'm sure it will end up going back to one of my children when they have their own baby one day. But right now, it's not actually hung in our house. So that was a very fun stitch. It's a great pattern. I don't know that I'm ready to part with it yet because I'm not sure what will happen with my children, and if, you know, multiple of them have children, do they each like that pattern? Would they each like that? Do they want something different? Maybe they don't even want a cross stitch. I don't know. But something that's super special to me is that my mom, she was the one that introduced cross stitch to me when I was 13 years old. Maybe I was 13, 14, somewhere in there. And she has since stitched a cross stitch for each of my children. And she's currently working on a cross stitch for my nephews as well. And I think that's neat. Like, even though it's not, you know, something that our kids are saying, hey, I want one of those in my bedroom, they have it and they treasure them. My youngest got to actually pick out his pattern last year, which was a giant confetti watercolor koala bear. And it was my mom's first time doing confetti, and it's gorgeous, it's done, it's lovely, it's framed, hanging in his room, and she says, never again. But for my daughter, and I didn't really realize this initially, but for my eldest daughter, she had stitched this pattern, and it's Lavender and Lace, but it's actually the second pattern that Marilyn had ever designed for Lavender and Lace, and it's called Winter Rose, and it's right here. And this pattern is still readily available, easy to find. And unfortunately, I don't have really any of the details because my mom is in Norway and there is really bad internet, so I can't shoot her a text and get some information, but I do know it's an Aida cloth that it's stitched on, and my guess is it's about a 16 count there. And so she had stitched this one up for my daughter, and that's been in her room for, I think my daughter was about 10 years old when she had stitched that, so she's had it for about 7 years now. I love the choice of frame that she chose too. It's very like rustic looking. You see that there? So that's a beautiful one. You know, and looking at this too, I think that would have been fun to stitch. Just that background in here with the design. And it's just the blue, the gray blue colored thread, and then the other color is actually just the fabric showing through. So I think that would have been quite enjoyable to stitch. And then of course you get your block stitching, and then you have a little bit of a pattern through here. No confetti in this one. And then a stitched border. So I think this would have been an enjoyable pattern to stitch for sure. So I think it's cool that my mom had, you know, also made that for my children, and that they will always have that, whether that's hanging in their room or their child's room or whatever, right? And then when my middle child, when she was done that piece, she thought she'll make a piece for my middle child, Preston. And so she had chose her next piece. Now what I didn't realize is that the piece she chose for him is called Serendipity, and is actually Lavender and Lace's very first design. And it's right here. It's so beautiful. So it's like a little sampler. And again, she's chose the same style of a frame, but it's just slightly lighter than the other one. The other one is more black in comparison. Yeah, and it's fun too. So of course, stitch border. This one's also on Aida. And it has a little bit of confetti flowers at the top, some simple lettering, and then a boy and a girl at the bottom. And so Mom stitched the first one, and then the following year she stitched that one there. And so I think that's cool to have, you know, number 1 and number 2 of Marilyn's designs. So there they are side by side. Can you guys see that okay? So very neat to see that for sure. And they're definitely simpler designs. You know, when we start looking at the other designs from Lavender and Lace, they're definitely, they get quite a bit more complex and quite a bit larger. These are, she doesn't have very many that are small. So yeah, it's kind of neat to see, you know, through the years our home have ones right from the beginning, and then really not so many of her last releases with Lavender and Lace, but more, you know, from the beginning of her time with them. So that's what all I have to share for my Lavender and Lace today. I hope you guys enjoyed that. In reviewing this, you know, it really makes me want to stitch one, and one that I have my eyes on for a long time. Again, it's designed by Marilyn, but I think the pattern is told in a garden, and that's Earth Dancer. I'll put a picture here. Earth Dancer is gorgeous. I love it so much in so many different ways. And when I stitch a project, I tend to think a lot about, I don't know, just not, I know if I was to stitch Earth Dancer, I would think a lot about, you know, current Indigenous affairs, and just with the whole truth and reconciliation piece too. You know, over the last few years, I've been reading a fair bit of books as well, from the Truth and Reconciliation Council of Canada, and just listening to the voices of a lot of those Indigenous peoples that feel their voice has been lost and their stories haven't been told or heard. And I think that in stitching this piece, even though, you know, I'm stitching it for myself, I think that there's a lot of that, like that meditative piece where I can think a lot about Indigenous culture, the truth and reconciliation piece. You know, where are we going from here? What are we doing to, you know, honor their piece in history and in current affairs? And I just, on a personal note, I think we have a lot to learn from the Indigenous culture. You know, they had a way of living in such great harmony with our planet, and, you know, living just to have a really full life, but also in a very respectful way. And I think we have a lot to learn from that, because we're currently, like, mass consumerism is not sustainable, and we are just running our planet into the ground in like the most disrespectful way possible. So I think you know, the design's always been very appealing to me, but I also like that piece of just, you know, consciously being aware of what I'm thinking about while I'm stitching it. Yeah, anyway, so I think I'll order that. I did finally I went to go order it a couple weeks ago with 123 Stitch, and now it's not available. So I'll just have to order it from somewhere else, but it's definitely one that I do want to stitch. Okay, so moving on from there, I have some of my regular stitching for you, but I'm just realizing none of it's in front of me. So hold please. Okay, thanks for coming back. So my next piece was a new start for me, and this is a piece that I had purchased many years ago. I say many, maybe 3 to 4 years ago, not that many. And I had kitted this up when I did Victorian ribbons, and I think I have shared that previously, but it is a piece of canvas work. And so on Whip That Wheel, my last episode, Ukrainian eggs came up. So this is designed by Laura J. Perrin, and it's actually a really fun design. So I'm new to canvas work. I've only done one piece previously, and this is my second go at it, and it's very fun. I have some Ukrainian history in or heritage in our family, and so the eggs are really fun. You know, we do dye eggs as well every Easter, and we have a lot of fun doing that. And when I had seen this pattern for sale, I thought, oh yeah, that's what I need for sure. And I would love to stitch it up, frame it, hang it around Easter time. So it was a new start. Now I do have to tell you, because it looks crazy that I've done so much, but canvas work is a lot quicker than cross stitch. You know, when we're stitching cross stitch, it's such a small little X, you know, whereas canvas work, sometimes you're running a thread the entire length of your canvas. So it can be a lot quicker, but I like to share my start with you. Let me just get a piece of paper from behind here, because the canvas is a little bit holier than linen, right? You can see through. So this is where I'm at. So I've done my top egg and the egg to the right and to the left, and then I've started on doing some of the border work. And the border is actually, I find, quite fun to do. It does progress quite quickly. I did most of that border in, I think it was about over 2 days worth of stitching, but you know, I was only spending maybe a couple hours a day on stitching those. So these are wrapped roses here, and they'll be beaded. I don't know if I can get in real close to show you guys that one there. So essentially you end up stitching like a you know, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you're gonna come up with your floss, and you're gonna go weave it down and in and around, and just keep going around and around and around till you can't see the legs that you've stitched anymore. So those are throughout the design. And then I had realized I made an error. So canvas work is really interesting, because what happens is when you go to stitch the egg, you don't just start at one end and work your way in. Each egg will say, first you're going to stitch all the red, then you're going to stitch all the turquoise, then you're going to stitch the gold, and then you're going to do the white, and then the back stitch. And the reason why we say that is because if you look at this red egg down here, so if you look in these little pieces here, you can see there's red stitching and then like gold stitching over top. And so some of the stitches in canvas work, they tend to they lay over top of other stitches. And so it's really important that when you stitch this, you stitch in the right order. And I am new to canvas work, so this is just what I have learned. You know, with the designs, there are definitely step-by-step instructions for each egg, as well as, you know, for the mesh border, as well as for the perimeter border. So if you just follow the instructions, it will take you right through properly, but you can't just dive into looking at only the pattern and stitching it on your own. Maybe you could if you're an experienced canvas stitcher, but I definitely need those step-by-step instructions. So in saying that, there's two different golds that are used here. You can see here, there is the light yellow and then kind of the darker gold. And so I've done all 3 eggs, and then I realized, wait a minute, for some reason in the picture, the gold that goes here and around the corner of this looks too dark. And so I'm using DMC number 5 for that. And it looks too dark because it is too dark. It should actually be the lighter DMC. So now I realized that, I mean, the colors are fairly similar, but you can tell these 2 colors are used in this mesh here. So when they're stitched, you can see there's quite a difference. One is definitely more bright. And with the brighter, it is supposed to be all those little X's, or not X's, all the little stitches over top there and there, which are easy, I think, to replace because they were some of the last pieces going in, but also the like the stitches that lay over top here and up in here, and then, you know, and then it repeats around each section of the egg, and then all the way through here, and also through around both of those. And so, well, I think that maybe I can fix that. I also think maybe not, because look at the back. Look at the back of that egg. So, I really don't know. I'll probably try to fix it and see how it goes. It may go well, and it also may go terribly wrong. So we'll just see. Now my next piece that I've been stitching is my stitch along piece called Frog. I'll put a picture here for you. So this is one that I'm doing with Amber, Rogue Mama Stitcher, as well as Ali with the .crossstitch.files. She doesn't have a channel, but she's on Instagram if you guys want to give her a follow. And this one here, just realizing I don't have my board, so I'm going to put it on a piece of paper. A little underprepared today. I'm working a ton right now, and I don't really have time to film, but I'm just going for it anyways. So here's my frog. This has been my car project for like pick up and drop off at school. He's been really fun to stitch. I'm using 18 count black Aida and just a called for a DMC. Now I wasn't sure, because the pattern calls for white Aida and I'm using black, about the outline of the frog, whether that should be black as it's called for or a different color. And so I did put this up for a question on one of my Flosstubes, and so many people answered with so many great suggestions. And I think the number one comment, I can't remember now if it was a really dark gray or really dark green, one of the two. And so I thought, you know, the best thing for me to do is actually just to stitch a little bit of each and see what I think. And I really didn't like the dark green. It just didn't seem quite right with the frog for some reason. And there will be some darker green, like back stitching of like his little toad spots or frog spots, you know, on the back here. So, and then the gray just really didn't look right at all. And I think also because the eyes and the nose and the mouth are stitched as well. So if I did that in the color, it wasn't looking right. And then so if I left that part black and then just the outline of the frog in a different color, it also didn't look right. So I've just decided to go ahead and stitch it all black as it's called for, and he's almost done. So next time you see him, he will actually be sewn up into a project bag, which will be really fun. I'm thinking maybe a notions bag, but I'll see. I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. So I've noticed there's been a few more people that have joined that stitch along, which is great. If you guys want to stitch something that's a little fun, you know, he stitches up super quick and he's really cute. I know my youngest is always like, let me see the frog. Where are you at on the frog, right? He thinks it's really awesome. I think he's not that into my other cross stitches, but the frog is definitely up his alley for sure. Okay, so then my next one is my stitch along that I'm doing with Samantha, and that is hashtag Year of the Dragon Sal. And for that one, I won't do a ton on this because we just did a video about it, so I'll put the link for the video here if you're interested just did. We wanted to actually film like a stitch with me, but we got all caught up in stories and just chit-chatting that, you know, we were over an hour and we were like, well, this isn't gonna work. And then one of our camera stands wasn't, you know, working as it should. So we just called it a day. So if you want something to play in the background, go over, watch that. It's, you know, good conversation at least. So here is my piece. This is Celestial Dragon, and it's by Teresa Wensler. It calls for white fabric, but I of course have made some changes, and I'm doing a red fabric on mine. So I will show you quickly where I'm at. So right now I have finished a quarter of the design, and that was previously, and I took the month of May off for Mirabilia, and now I'm working on the second half of the design over here. So I'm just about ready. I'm working in that box doing those crisscrosses, and then I can do some 1 over 1 over there. And the symbol for that one, let's see, the first symbol that I had stitched was happiness. And the next symbol that I am stitching is longevity, and that will be in this corner up here. And then I will stitch the rest of the dragon prior to our July 10th video. And we're doing a giveaway. We made a dragon project bag, and that giveaway will be on Samantha's channel, the Huga Stitcher, on July the 10th. So if you're interested in that, pop on over, check out, actually the video for Year of the Dragon sale is on my channel, and I've just posted that link for you guys. And then you have to watch on July the 10th, we'll release a video on Samantha's channel announcing the winner. So if you want to participate in that giveaway, hop on over and do that. Speaking of giveaways too, I do have another giveaway for Tree of Hope, which, do I have that with me? I do. So for my last video, I was giving this pattern away. I've completed it, and I like to pass along my patterns. The only thing I ask is that when you guys get the pattern and you stitch it, if you can pass it on along as well. If you can refrain from selling it, that would be great. It's just to pass along that stitchy kindness for people. So I use the random YouTube random comment picker, I think it's called. And I will put the winner here. It's Susan. So Susan, if you were able to reach out to me with your mailing address, we need to make sure that you've liked and subscribed and can provide the address for me. I can pop that in the mail for you today, maybe tomorrow. Let's say tomorrow. Now there's another thing I've been stitching, and that is my round robin. So round robin is something I'm doing with Samantha, the Huga Stitcher, and Sarah, Lady Lugana. They both have their own channels, so definitely recommend checking them out. They're a lot of fun. Now Samantha is the one that had suggested for round robin, we will pass along a project that we're already working on, needs a little bit more progress, needs a little bit more life, you know, into the piece. And so Samantha sent me her Halloween at Hawk Run Hollow. And I don't have the pattern right in front of me, but I think we all know what this pattern looks like, right? So I'm not going to insert it. It is by Carriage House Samplings. And I had asked last time, what do you guys want me to do? Should I stitch a full coverage block that is about 10,000 stitches, or should I do the black outline? And everybody, all but one person, said the borders, the black outline. So I've done the borders for the middle, and I'm just working on the bottom row of borders, and my goal is to complete the borders for the month of June. And then the month of July, I'm going to start that full coverage block and see what I can do on that. This is stitched on 40 count legacy linen by Picture This Plus using the Called for DMC floss, and it is just gorgeous fabric. I absolutely love it, and she's stitching that in hand, which has been nice because I've been able to stitch it in hand. I feel like if someone's stitching something in a frame, I would definitely put it in a frame and stitch it as well. But when she said, oh no, she's stitching it in hand, I thought, oh, that's great, because in hand for me is comfort stitching. So I can curl up in one of the chairs in the big windows there, and just the sunlight, I can see that perfectly, and just kind of stitch away, right? But each block has about 370 stitches for each block. So I mean, I'm about 15 1,500 stitches I think I've done on that in the last couple of weeks. So it doesn't look like a lot having those borders in there, but it's a lot, especially when you have to count down, you know, 97 stitches or something on 40 count, and it takes some time to like count it again, don't mess it up, make sure you get it right. So yeah, the next part that I have for you guys is my community corner. And a little bit of stitchy haul. They kind of overlap a little bit. So earlier on in the month, about a week ago, I had met up with a couple local stitchers here in the Lower Mainland, Manvir and Ukrainian, and we had a great time. They had come over, we just hung out and stitched in the evening, you know, got to meet each other for the first time, and we have some plans going forward, just going down to the States for a day and whatnot. So Manvir was going to go to Stitch North, and then there was some other travel that she had to do with family instead. So she didn't end up making it to Stitch North, but she did have a giveaway. So she had purchased gifts for all of her table mates, and now she has, you know, all these little kits for people, but she didn't end up going. So she has, she gave us each a little kit and then asked if I wanted an extra one to give away. And I said, absolutely, that would be fantastic. So all of them came in these little canvas bags, which is cute. And then she purchased everybody a Mill Hill kit, part of their I Love collection. And this one here is I Love Stitching. And it's so cute. It's a little heart, and then it has a like a scissor charm at the bottom. It's kind of a bit blurry there. There you go. A scissor charm at the bottom, and then it just shows some cross stitching on the front, some DMC floss, and some like blending filament and whatnot. And of course it comes with everything you need is in there with the perforated paper. So it's a fun little kit. I thought that for the giveaway, the code word for this, the keyword could be love, since it's part of I Love collection. So love will be the keyword if you are interested in this. I'll ship it to anywhere in the world to you. You just need to be at least 18 years of age, like and subscribe, and I'll draw for this on my next video. So thank you very much, Manvir, for sharing that with everybody. Now, she does not have a Flosstube, but she is on Instagram, and she is mamabear.stitching. And definitely I suggest go follow her because she has some really great projects on the go. She's working on a Saudi Arabia piece right now. Was that by Tiny Modernist? I can't remember. I'll put it on the screen for you. And then I mentioned her in my previous video because she does a lot of really neat finishing. She just did these like micro pieces and then finished them into little books, and it is very, very cool. So I'm just always looking for new ideas, different ways that we can, you know, finish things and whatnot. So I would definitely go give her a follow for sure. The next thing I wanted to share with you guys is another stitchy meetup date. You guys know that a lot of the fabric I buy is from this store called Chitter, and that's in Bradner and Abbotsford. And they have this wonderful new thing where on their farm, they're setting up an outdoor tented area. And while there's no power, there are, you know, seats, and you guys can bring your own picnic blankets, pack a picnic lunch if you want. And we have rented the space for July the 6th from 12 to 2, and their store will be open as well. So anybody who is local to the Lower Mainland and would like to just get together and stitch outside, weather pending of course. If it is like torrential downpour, we probably won't go, but you know, if the weather's half decent or even a sunny day, we'll definitely be there. So that's Chitter Fabric in Abbotsford on July the 6th from 12 to 2. Their store will be open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. that day. So it's a great day to just head out there. We can bring your stitching. It's bright. You can stitch outside. No lights are needed. There will be tables and chairs, but if you have your own, you know, camping chair that you want to bring, or a picnic blanket, you're welcome to bring that. If you want to bring a picnic lunch just to meet people and check out the store, you can do that too. There's no cost involved to it, and it's just kind of an idea where, you know, hopefully we can get some local stitchers popping out and, you know, sharing what they're doing, whether that might be some English paper piecing or cross stitch, or, you know, hand quilting, whatever it is you like, knitting, whatever you'd like to do. The one thing to note is that there is no power to the tent. So if you must have power for something, make sure you bring, you know, battery operated light, etc. But I don't think you'll need it. It's nice and bright and sunny on the farm. So if you're around, please join us. I think that will be a lot of fun. And you don't necessarily need to reply letting us know you're coming. You definitely can. You can reach out to fibersandfloss@gmail.com. But you can also just show up. If you are coming out this way though, and if you guys wanted to do, you know, coffee in the morning beforehand, or you want to do like an earlier dinner afterwards, reach out to me, because I would absolutely love to visit a little bit longer. Yeah, I'm excited for that. So hopefully we can meet some more people. That would be wonderful. The next little bit I have, I want to talk about another cross stitcher, but she also kind of ties into my haul a little bit. So I purchased a Hands Across the Sea pattern, Elizabeth Furness, 1836, and it's still in the package. Hopefully it's not too crinkly. This is the pattern, and I do think that maybe this was their first pattern that they've ever done. The colors on here look a little bit darker than they are in real life, but it's a very fun pattern for sure. And so I thought to myself, okay, well, you know, I've got the pattern and I'm gonna save up, and I'll probably do the 100 threes. And so I was saving up for that because it calls for quite a few. But then I was listening to Brenda and Laura, the cereal starter, and they had said that with Nicola Parkman's pieces, her DMC conversion is excellent. You know, sometimes when you talk about the conversions, they're just a little bit darker, they're not quite as bright, they just kind of are missing the mark, you know? And they said, no, absolutely not. You can 100% stitch yours in DMC and it will be fantastic. You will not regret that choice. And so I thought, oh, well then I can just order it now. I don't need to save up for all the silks. So I ordered everything, and then I went on to, I wanted to try, my right brain wasn't talking to my left brain. And what I thought I would do is order the DMC floss, because it's cheap. I can do it now. The floss is gorgeous. Let me show you the floss. I might need to edit that out, we'll see. Let's pick it all up. So this is the floss for it. And there is some really beautiful, bright, you know, sort of tangerine, reds, pinks, blues, greens. It's a very nice color palette. So I was excited to see that because I do really like the bright colors. I mean, just look at this color. I don't know where that is in there, but I can't wait to stitch that for sure. So I thought, oh, that's beautiful. And then the other half of my brain said, you know, you've always wanted to stitch something on a 56 count. Why not order a 56 count? So I did, not thinking that I've ordered the DMC. So I ordered 56 count fabric, but I have DMC, and I'm thinking to myself, is the DMC going to be too thick to stitch on a 56? And who can I talk to about that? Who do we know that stitches on 56 count and might be able to lend their opinion on whether or not it's feasible with DMC? Now, I did try and look online, and online, you know, the general consensus is, yes, it's totally fine. But 56 count is really, really fine. And sometimes I find, you know, even when you're looking at a 40 with one strand of DMC, there's pretty decent coverage. So I'm a little bit reserved about how that's going to look on a 56 count. So I reached out to Audrey. Now, you guys must all know Audrey. She's stitched stitch bead on Flosstube. I think she got a great shout out fairly early on from Brenda Laura, so there's lots of followers now. And she's newer to stitching. She stitches the most beautiful samplers. She's done a couple of the retreats, and she stitches a lot of higher counts. And I thought, you know what? She's gonna know with the 56 if I could do a DMC or not. So I reached out to her, and she was able to offer a little bit of advice as well. So she has stitched on 56 count before, multiple times, and she likes to use the Aversois, the 103s, and she said that's her favorite for coverage. It works really well on a 56 count. But she was also a little bit reserved about DMC, thinking it could maybe be too thick. It might work really well, you know, when we look at the pattern, it may work really well in terms of like the borders, but when you start getting into an area that has a bit more like full coverage, you could have some problems in there. And so I thought, oh, well, now what do? Do I go back to saving up and ordering, you know, the 103s? Do I don't know. There's also the suggestion of, do I use Seraphim for it? Maybe that might be, it's a little bit finer, that might be better, but again, the price point's the same, right? Or do I change my fabric size? And this pattern here, I think, is like 347 by 358 or something. So it's pretty big, and I really, really want to try something on a 56 count. 40, I can count without I can stitch without magnification. And I think that the 56, you know, I'm just going in with the mindset of I'm going to have to use my light and my magnifying light, and that is okay. I want to give it a go. And when I look at this, I don't know if you can tell if you look up close, really closely, those are some teeny tiny stitches there. Do you see that? And so I think it would be amazing to stitch that on a 56 count. It says the model here was 40 count, yeah. So I'm not sure. I need to think about it. The other part of me says maybe just take a strand of DMC close to the selvage and stitch, you know, a 10 by 10 block and see what does that look like. Is that feasible? Does it look way too thick? Is it, you know, is the thread fraying? And so that might be what I do, is try that, because I would love to start it. And if it works, it works. It would be great. Now, one other problem. It should be simple, right? Just getting something up, getting something fun, and just starting it. Maybe it's all a sign that I shouldn't start it. I don't know. So anyways, I ordered this Cafe au Lait 56 count Kingston fabric, and I figured it's a good neutral. It does go really well with the floss colors, so I'm happy with that. But remember, we did that Flosstubersity and we talked about linen and that it's spun from flax. And so when I look at this fabric, you know, from a distance, it's beautiful fabric, it's perfect, there's no problems with it whatsoever. But let me show you this. One side is worse than the other. Now, I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see this. Can you see this here? Do you see those little lines in here? Do you see that? So it looks almost like a rust stain, but it's not. It's a darker piece of flax that's woven through here. The color is unfortunate. It's almost like a caramel color. And so I'm actually surprised at how well it's showing up on camera, because I have to really look for it in person. You know, from a distance, you're probably not, I don't know, would you notice it? Am I gonna notice it? Is that gonna be a problem? There's a couple areas where I look at this fabric, it's not super wide, and the stitch would go with only 2 inches of margin on either side. But there's, you know, a top half and a bottom half that I can choose from. And there is one half that is a little bit better than the other half. It's this half here. And so, you know, do I stitch on that? I think it's probably okay. So maybe what I'll do, the thing is, if I don't stitch on this now, I don't know what I will ever use it on. So I'm not sure. I think I need to test it with the DMC. And if it's a no-go, I think that I will either order a 40 count fabric or 46 count for the DMC. If I feel like there's enough wiggle room for 46, then maybe I might go that route. And if there's not, then I will go with the silks. Just one's much more expensive than the other, right? So a little bit of haul, a big thank you as well to Audrey for her opinion on that. She's the only person I really know that is stitching 56 count and able to offer that opinion. And if you guys don't watch Audrey and you like the look of samplers or any of the Hands Across the Sea, you need to go follow her because she has the most amazing eye candy out there, even on her Instagram page as well as on her Flosstube. So highly recommend checking her out. I know that when I go onto her Instagram, I think, oh, I want to stitch all the things she's stitching, which is terrible. Stop enabling me. Now, my last piece of haul that I have, I also got some Magnifica beads that finally came in for my Mirabilia Bluebeard's Princess. And I felt a bit silly because I had to order it from the States from a couple different places. One didn't ship to Canada, ordered it to my box. You know, some of the Magnificas that are out of production, as these ones were, they were like $12 a package US. So I had to drive across the border to pick up, you know, 7 packages of beads that had come in. And then I went back across the border and he says, what did you get? And I said, oh, just this little bag of beads, you know, and he's, what's the value on that? And I said, well, that's like $80 something. And he's like, what kind of beads are those? I said, nope, they're just beads. Nothing special. So I'm happy that those have arrived. That's great. And then the other thing was this week is I have completely sorted out my entire collection of needle art. So cross stitch, canvas, needlepoint, all my flosses, all my patterns, all my whips and everything. And I found this one pattern and I thought to myself, oh, I need to kit that up, and I think I need to stitch that for the first of July 1st for Canada Day. So this pattern is a Canadian designer. She is, she retired in 2013 maybe, or 2005, I can't remember now. I tried to figure out, you know, is this out of print, is it still around? Her name is Lynn Nicoletti, and she is from Ontario. Now there used to be a cross stitch store in Vancouver off of King George Highway in Surrey, and you know, it was one of those old stores you go into. Their walls were just lined with framed pieces, you know, to the ceiling around the entire perimeter of the store. And Samantha and I had visited there. I think we had babies with us. Our kids must have been babies at that time. And I bought this chart because I'd never seen anything like it. And I thought, I want to stitch that. And so it's called Maple Leaf Montage. And this, what's really cool about this is that you can see, like in the background, they have like little pictures of, you know, things that represent Canada. And I thought that it's a full coverage piece, but it's fairly small. I think it's like what does it say? 5 inches by 11 inches if it's stitched on 16 count aida. I probably will do aida because it's full coverage, but I probably will do a 20 count aida, so it'd be slightly smaller than that, maybe 4.5 by 10 or something. So I bought the DMC floss that it calls for, which is surprising because it's just all reds and whites, kind of a little bit of like the garnet wine color in there. So that will be fun. But what's really cool is the back of the pattern yeah, I can show all of this. She has each montage, like each motif, what the significance is in like relation to Canada. And so I thought that's really cool. So I'm hoping to start that one for Canada Day this year, and then I'll speak a bit more to this when I start it. I'll share the things. There are 11. There are 11 different sort of emblems or motifs. So I thought that was a really cool piece for sure. So excited to have that all kitted up. The very last thing I want to do with you guys today is whip that wheel. Oh, and do you feel I'm all over the place? Because I definitely feel all over the place. Flosstubersity. I just wanted to say I don't have a video this week, but that's because I've been super busy with my children. So that's my top priority. But I will be doing some videos here over the summer. And I did want to thank everybody for all their suggestions. I did ask in a previous video that if there was something that you were interested in learning more about, please comment and let me know. And that's still stands at any point. So if there's something you guys are interested in learning about, just make a little comment, and then if I'm able to, if I have some knowledge to share on that, I definitely will. The most popular things that people were commenting on, number one was backstitching. You know, how to start backstitching, how to backstitch when there's, you know, there's nothing else around there. If you're just doing a line that kind of goes out from the center of your pattern, you know, how to secure that thread when there's nothing to secure to. So I will definitely do a video on that. Other one, it seemed to be the methods on starting a thread, like starting, you know, 2 flosses versus 1 floss, and also ending that. You know, people requesting things like how to do a pin stitch, waist knots, stuff like that. So I'll definitely do a video on that as well. And then there's a lot of other suggestions that I'll definitely follow up on. So the very last thing for you today will be whip that wheel. So I'm just gonna cut over and we'll see what we spin. I don't know. You guys know how I feel about that. I am not sure what I'm gonna do if, I'll tell you what. I will try the DMC. If the DMC works, I'm going to start Elizabeth Furness. If it doesn't work and I need to set it aside and change the course, then I'll do that. So I'm going to spin a second spin. And if Elizabeth Furness isn't working, I'm gonna go with what the second spin suggests. Let's spin it again. Get out of town. Okay. We definitely could do that one. I have it all kitted up. It's ready to go. It's almost July the 1st. I mean, it would be quite perfect. But I'll definitely give Elizabeth Furness a go for sure, because I was quite passionate and wanted to start that one. And if it doesn't work, then I'll start my Canada Day stitch a little bit early. Yeah, I think that's about all I have for you guys. So please let me know, what do you think about Angel of Spring? Do you have a suggestion on what I should do with that? Also make sure you hop over to Samantha's channel on July the 10th for the giveaway for Year of the Dragon Cell. And then if you are interested in our giveaway here, thank you to Manvir at Manvir Stitching. There is the I Love collection, and the code word for that one is love. So if you're interested, please enter in that one as well. Thank you so much, you guys. I hope I will get to meet a few more of you on July the 6th at Chitter Chatter. If you have any questions about that, just shoot me a quick email or reach out to me here in the comments and we can get things addressed. Thanks so much. Happy stitching.